Hey everybody, welcome to episode 16 of Why Orillia. Today is a very special day for our show. We are greeted by our wonderful, honorable mayor, Steve Carke. Thank you so much, Steve, for
My
coming
pleasure,
out
Jordan.
and
Great to
being
be
on the
here.
show. So I usually start every episode off by giving the guest an opportunity to introduce themselves to the audience. You being our mayor is, you're a man that needs no introduction, but maybe for the one or two people in Orillia who don't know you, in your words, who is Steve Carke?
Great question. I'm much more comfortable answering questions about the community and projects than about myself personally. But I'm a family man. I've got four wonderful children. Hard to say that they're children anymore. A lovely wife. Family and friends are a mainstay value for me. I love this community. I've loved it since the minute I decided to come here, and I think, and I hope I demonstrated long before coming to this office that passion and was tried to be involved in the community in many different ways.
Absolutely. And so, as mayor, I would imagine that along this road, there's been ups and downs, and you've had great successes, and I'm sure there's been some disappointing failures. Is there one win that really sticks out for you that happened on your watch as mayor?
Yeah. Well, I like to think that we've accomplished a few things in the last 4 years, but that never happens with a solo effort. I mean, we've got the majority of council had to go in a certain direction for anything to pass. So, right. My hat's off to the rest of the council team. And of course, once council makes it, I'll get to your direct question, answer in a minute if that's okay. But this is very important. And Monday night's meeting was an illustration of what I'm talking about. So once council makes a decision, sometimes they're decisions on simple issues, sometimes they're very comprehensive. And then staff have to go and make sure all the pieces of the puzzle are put together. And Monday night was an illustration of that on the waterfront, the waterfront working group. Was struck together a few years ago. We purchased the Metro Plaza property.
Yep.
We have adjacent property there. We're repurposing and redeveloping all that land between our beautiful waterfront and our historic downtown. But that's not an easy project.
Right.
We've got roads, we've got wastewater, we've got water infrastructure underneath the ground, and some of the stuff's 80, 90 years old. And we want to de-risk the property, do due diligence, geotechnical, environmental, and put it out for an RFP next year rather. So to get to that point that we got to on Monday night took a lot of effort. And so I will commend council for giving guidance and making the decision and being part of the process. But my hat's truly off to staff to bring that forward.
Yeah, I think that.
And that's not even a project that I want to directly answer. I hate to go back to it because it's. I know I was associated with it before coming to office, but the rec center, the community center on West Street. Some will say that issue went back 40 years. Many, I think, could substantiate 30 years, and certainly since the year 2000, 2001. It was a divisive issue. It was I believe that it truly created a crisis of confidence in the community where people were saying, they were kind of tired of it. It wasn't happening. They didn't think we could do it. And so I'm hoping that when we open the doors of that in the first quarter next year, and I'll be one of the ones holding the doors as you come into the front. So I'm hoping that will be a place of celebration, and not just for square walls where you can come in and swim or shoot a basketball. Right. It will really be hopefully the social heart of the community, a true community center inside and outside.
I'm really excited about it. When I came to Orillia in 2001, at some point, like you mentioned, it almost became this thing that you always just heard about, but never, from my point of view, I never really saw anything happening. And then now, to see that and to see, I saw you guys, the city released a video of the update on it.
The drone video, right?
A little while ago, and it looks amazing. Yeah. And so, this might segue nicely into the next question, talking about the future. So whether people, agree with every decision of council or whether they like their councillor or not, I would say, there's no denying that over the past few years, Orillia has experienced tremendous growth. And more specifically, and maybe more impressively, they've experienced tremendous growth while not sacrificing the community aspect and the sense of community. And in my eyes, and I think in the eyes of a lot of people in Orillia, this has been a really great period of time for the city of Orillia. looking forward, maybe over the next 3 to 5 years, in order for Orillia to continue this tremendous growth from a commerce and from a community perspective, what does Orillia have to do really well, and maybe what's something that we need to avoid?
Right. Well, Jordan, I think you hit one of the proverbial nails on the head, because what you're just describing, and hopefully the answer I give is what we need to do as a council. I hope we've considered in the last 4 years, and the next council needs to consider the same thing. We are in a period of growth, and growth is neat. It's beneficial in numerous ways. We are in a much better financial position than we were 4 years ago, for example, because of that development. But it can't be development that's out of control. It can't be development that we don't want. We don't have to look too far and I've had discussions with other municipalities where they went through a period of exponential growth,
right.
Where I believe, and I believe even some in those communities believe, they lost part of their character.
Yes.
So I know we were talking before we came live. I mean, people are attracted to Orillia because of the quality of life. So when we develop, when we grow, yes, we want development, but it's got to be development that matches the character we have, or even enhances it, which I think is quite doable. I refer to Match Dash Lofts. There's a gentleman who came to town, fell in love with this building that we're sitting in today, saw that and the historic nature of the downtown, and wanted to enhance that. So here we are developing, here we are increasing the tax assessment to the city, which we need to help pay for services, to take pressure off taxes for the rest of us, but doing it in a way that actually is exciting and attractive.
Right.
And that is exactly what we are planning on doing with 70 Front Street area as well. So that the waterfront and the downtown are connected by this development that makes sense and enhances that character.
Yeah, I think that it's a really important thing, and it's probably the most exciting thing to me in the past 5 years is that we seem to, if anything, we seem to have enhanced our sense of community while growing, which I know a lot of communities, like you mentioned, have not been so successful doing. So, Mr. Mayor, you are running for re-election this year.
Indeed.
Time will tell if you're successful in your bid. Presumably at some point down the road, you'll no longer be mayor. And many years down the road after that, somebody maybe doing a show like this will be reflecting on your time as mayor. How do you think people will reflect on your time as mayor, and maybe how do you hope that they reflect on your time as mayor?
Well, that's a great question. I think I'll get a snapshot of that at least in the next couple of months. I'm hoping that the majority of the people have been happy with the bulk of the decisions that council has made. I think at the end of 4 years or 8 years or whatever somebody leaves office, if they can be confident that the decisions that have made most of the people happy for the right reasons, they should probably take some solace in that. This vision I have, it's a little corny, is and my oldest daughter is pregnant with what will be our first grandchild, so that's very exciting. But I envision having my grandchild in my car on a bicycle beside me or walking somewhere throughout the city, whether it's West Ridge or downtown or along the waterfront. And I would love to be able to turn in 10 or 12 or 15 years to my grandchild and say, we were part of that. And hopefully it's something they...
I'm getting goosebumps, so I don't think it's corny. I think that would be a really amazing thing. And so, we've mentioned this before we got on camera, and we've mentioned it again during this episode. You're somebody that has really been involved in the community long before that you were actually mayor. You have been a private business owner. You have, served as a public servant. Have you noticed a difference in people's ability to serve their community, whether they're in the private sector or public sector? And if so, do you think it's easier to really affect change in your community if you're in the private sector or public sector?
That's a great question. So there may be differences in how you affect that kind of hopefully positive change. But you can do that in either capacity. As I say, my wife and I made a decision early on to involve our business in community events. But many people do that in this community. I look at John Mayo, Ginny Stringer, Jimmy Dykes, Pam Carter. there's dozens and dozens,
Absolutely.
Mike Davenport, that have truly embraced the community and put their money where their mouth is, and their resources and time and effort. So you can make a difference if you want to go and help plant a seed or weed a community garden, and those are significant contributions. Or you can be a business owner that involves your business. You can be on council. The one thing I will say that I think I've learned over the last few years is the effect that you can potentially have on a municipal council is significant. It's even more direct than a provincial position or a federal position, and so hopefully that we've affected a few positive changes in the last few years.
I certainly think you have. So I'd like to change the tone a little bit here.
We're going negative now?
No. We're getting a little more personal now.
Oh, good.
Most people in the city of Orillia know you as their mayor. I've seen you out in public and at certain events and gotten to know you that way. And everybody in town, in my mind, seems to know you in one way or another. What is something that the people of Orillia might be a little bit surprised, personally, to find out about you?
Well, I would suppose that I'm actually a private person. I am, I alluded earlier to how important my family is to me, and so as much as I'm out in the public, whether it was through my business before coming to office or being in office, and love those opportunities and chances, and love the events and the people. But when I get through a day or take a day off, I love to be surrounded by my wife and children, and father and mother and stepfather father-in-law and mother-in-law, and soon a grandchild. So I do cherish my private times as well as being in the public.
I can certainly relate to that. Now, I think that sort of segues nicely into this next question. We've all seen movies and shows where, some unsuspecting person gets elected as president of the United States, and there's this major adjustment for them. I would imagine when you were elected as mayor, maybe on a slightly smaller scale, you maybe felt some of those same feelings. When you first became mayor, was there something, a major shock to your system, or maybe what was the most difficult thing to get used to?
That's a good question. I'll be quite honest and frank. I don't know if I was completely surprised by anything.
Okay.
I think I had a handle on the amount of hours that this job would take. I think if I wasn't prepared for that, or if the restaurant business didn't prepare somebody for working those kind of hours, daytime, nighttime, and weekends, and sometimes 7 days a week, then I think that would be a shock to some.
Right.
Because this job some weeks is 40 hours, 50 hours, 60, 70 hours, depending on the projects going on and the demand on your time. So I would think that would be a surprise for many. But I think I understood that coming in. But I alluded to something a minute ago. I think that, so maybe the fact that on council, even though I'm only one of 9 votes, and that's something that a mayor needs to remember, is that it's not a power position. It's a position of positioning teamwork and a position of some influence maybe. But again, we only have one of 9 votes. So, but still. If you have an effective municipal council, you can really affect change at the municipal level, because there are so many issues that come across the municipal desk or my desk. That's actually, okay, there's one thing that completely surprised me as mayor, is just a comprehensive list of issues that come across my desk. And I wish I'd started keeping that track of that list from day one, because it is absolutely everything from negotiating, almost a $200 million deal with Hydro One, doing the recreation center, the waterfront, building the waterfront center, to having people who are complaining about a tree on their property line that's hanging over their property, or a sidewalk here, or neighbor disputes, or whatever it happens to be, or wastewater smell coming from the wastewater treatment center, which has been rectified. But it's just, so the comprehensive list of issues, there's my surprise.
We do have a lot of people living in this city, and they all have their individual needs, and so I would imagine that certainly would be a shock to the system. So this is a show about Orillia. The name of the show is Why Orillia. It's something that, this is the final question that I ask every guest on the show. It's what drives me to move forward with this episode, with these episodes. It's something that really is the motivating factor for what we're doing here. As somebody who has done so much in the community and given so much of their time, I've seen you give, a ton of your time and resources and energy to this community. Why Orillia? Why do you love Orillia so much?
I don't know. Quite frankly, why not Orillia? There was a movie a number of years ago that says there's something about Mary, and there's something about Orillia. So, 1992, my wife and I decided we were going to open up our own business. I'd been in the restaurant business for quite some time at that point, and we had looked in Guelph, Stratford, Kitchener, London, Midland, all municipalities that I had some familiarity with, and for whatever reason, we didn't find something that really just jumped off the page at us. And my wife one day, we're living in Ingersoll, and she was flipping through the paper, I think it was the Toronto Star, and she said, "Hey, there's a restaurant for sale in Orillia." And honestly, it was a light bulb, it was an epiphany. A light bulb went off, because the most experience I really had with Orillia at that point was I grew up in the Midland area, went to MSS, played a lot of my high school sports against Orillia. And but remembered it was bigger than Midland, on the beautiful waterfront. I remember some of the people, some of the coaches, some of the people I competed against. And we got in the car the very next day. We went and looked at the restaurant that that was advertised. Didn't settle on that one, but walked down the street and found this. At that time, it was the old Shang, which was a landmark in the community for decades. At this point, it had been quite dilapidated and derelict, and would let go. And so it didn't look very pleasant, but we fell in love with it. And so we were talking just before we came on air. Years ago, people couldn't wait to graduate and then go elsewhere. But the quality of life that Orillia affords in terms of affordability, in terms of access to the GTA, if you want to go down and partake in something culturally, there's things that I'm proud of as mayor, and I'll mention those in a second if that's okay. There's also some things that we need to continue to work on. One is creating employment opportunities. That is key, because creating a prosperous local economic environment takes care of many other issues that we have, social economic issues. The opioid issue, for example, has strong correlations to our social economic status of an individual. We have a low inventory of affordable housing. We have still, with our wonderful Georgian College and Lakehead University, although this is changing, we still have Simcoe County and Orillia have low attendance rates at post-secondary. We have a relatively high incidence of mental health issues. So these are things that we need to address. I know this is supposed to be a show about positive things, but affecting change in those areas can be a positive story.
We have to be open to accepting these things so that we can bring them up.
Because the things why Orillia? We're on two beautiful lakes. We have a trail system that links us up with our surrounding municipalities and everybody across Canada. A waterfront, the envy of many communities. I know this sounds like a trite mayor, but a historical downtown, a state-of-the-art library, our iconic opera house, well over 100 years old now, award-winning regional Soldiers Memorial Hospital, Lakehead University and Georgian College, like we mentioned, Ontario headquarters for OPP and regional headquarters, and next year we'll have I believe, one of the final pieces of infrastructure we need to be kind of a mature small urban center, and that'll be our new community center, rec center. So we've got many things going for us, and if we can continue to create some jobs to allow people to enjoy those amenities, then that'll be the task.
Well, I know that I am incredibly optimistic about the future for Orillia, knowing where we were and how we've progressed and the trajectory that we're on. So thank you for being a part of that and being such a huge part of that.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thanks very much.